This has been the most shambolic government. If it was Keir Starmer, you'd have gone absolutely berserk. Zack Polanski. Because I think he's a very weird and quite dangerous individual.
Piers Morgan went on Question Time after the UK local elections and absolutely unloaded on Britain's political parties. Labour had just taken a serious hit. Reform was celebrating a major breakthrough. The Greens were gaining ground, and instead of picking one side, Piers went after all of them. So let's play the key moments, explain what he was really attacking, and look at what defenders of each party would say in response. First up, Keir Starmer. After a rough local election night for Labour, Piers went straight for the government's biggest weakness, competence.
A shambles. Let's do a quick test. Who here feels better off under Labour? Nobody. They'd had 14 years to think about what they would do if they came into power, this Labour government. 14 years. And what did they do? Day one, Keir Starmer says, things are going to get worse before they get better. Well, he wasn't kidding. He wasn't kidding. We should have taken him at his word then. We've had a series of broken promises and U-turns on an unprecedented scale. It's almost like every policy initiative Labour came up with, they've immediately done a screeching U-turn. This has been the most shambolic government I have ever seen. Starmer, if he's watching, he should do the decent thing now and just resign, admit his culpability.
This is Piers attacking Labour at its weakest point, competence. Starmer came into government promising seriousness and stability, but Piers' argument is that Labour had 14 years in opposition to prepare, and once in power, it has looked chaotic, gloomy, and full of U-turns. That is why he brings up Starmer's warning that things would get worse before they got better. Piers is basically saying, you told people it would get worse, and now they believe you. Labour supporters would argue that Piers is ignoring what Starmer inherited: stretched public services, weak growth, council funding problems, and years of Conservative rule. They would also say Labour cannot fix 14 years of problems overnight. But Labour's problem is that it sold itself as the party of competence. So every U-turn, broken promise, and sign of chaos damages the exact image Starmer needs most. But Piers didn't stop with the government. Because if Labour came out of the local elections wounded, Reform came out stronger. And that is exactly why Piers turned his fire on Nigel Farage.
Only last week, Reform, who were told are going to be this breath of fresh air, a change, a new hope for the country, we discovered their leader, Nigel Farage, gets a £5 million bung from some bloke in Thailand who has a crypto interest. What is that about? And why are we not talking about that more?
If the government pledged to give Nigel Farage the security he desires, would he give that £5 million back?
Well, he doesn't need to do that because it was a gift. But that's
wow.
But
I tell you why.
Imagine if you were subject to severe. Maybe you have been.
I've had death threats.
Well, I think
you're not the only ones who get death threats.
Should be properly supported.
Listen, here's the point. If it was Keir Starmer, and we discovered last week he'd taken £5 million without declaring it from some crypto millionaire in Thailand, you'd have gone absolutely berserk.
This is Piers going after Reform at the exact moment Reform wants to be taken seriously. After the local elections, Reform was claiming a major breakthrough. But Piers is saying, if you want to be treated like a serious party, you also get serious scrutiny. The issue here is a reported £5 million gift to Nigel Farage from Christopher Harborne, a businessman linked to crypto interests. The controversy is about transparency, judgment, and whether Reform would apply the same standards to itself that it applies to everyone else. That is why Piers' strongest line is the Starmer comparison. If Keir Starmer had taken £5 million from a crypto-linked millionaire and not declared it, Reform would almost certainly be furious. Reform's defenders would argue that this was a personal gift, not a party donation. They would say Farage has faced serious threats, and that the money was linked to security concerns. And they would argue that if the rules did not require declaration at the time, critics are turning a technical issue into a political attack. But Reform campaigns as the anti-establishment, clean break alternative. So anything involving huge sums of money, wealthy donors, and questions about transparency is politically dangerous. So Piers has hit Labour on competence and Reform on hypocrisy. But his most explosive attack came next, against the Greens, in the middle of a row over policing, anti-Semitism and political judgment. This is the most sensitive clip because it comes after the Golders Green attack, where Jewish victims were stabbed and police arrested the suspect.
If there has been anti-Semitic or any other statement that's against our values, then that, through our disciplinary process, won't be allowed. There's a really clear line on that. We're working with people like Diaspora Alliance We're making sure that we're getting this right. We're looking at it very, very carefully.
Yes.
It's not something we're tolerating.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I could have sworn that when two innocent Jewish men walking down a street were attacked by a lunatic anti-Semite who wanted to stab them to death, and then carried on trying to find other victims in Golders Green, where so many Jewish people live, that when two heroic police officers apprehended this man, who was still armed, who was not, as your leader tried to claim later, in handcuffs, that at that moment, when we're all looking at heroes saving innocent people from being stabbed, your leader, Zack Polanski, goes on social media and retweets a post criticising those police officers. And you don't think that's divisive?
I think he apologised.
You don't think it's divisive?
I think he apologised for that.
Well, hang on, he didn't apologise.
He didn't apologise.
He apologised for putting it out in a tweet, but he said he was still concerned by what he said.
And then he's doubled down on it since, and then got it wrong and lied about the police and said that this guy was in handcuffs when he wasn't. And I would go further about Zack Polanski, because I think he's a very weird and quite dangerous individual. And there are other things about him which I just find frankly quite disturbing. We haven't got to the bottom of it yet of why he thinks that if women have hypnotherapy, their breasts will get larger. I interviewed him, and he insisted to me that women can have penises, and that when I challenged him on that, I'm interested in what you think, he said that I was transphobic, without any evidence for me being transphobic whatsoever. This guy is weird, he's dangerous, and he wants to inflame tension when we have heroic police officers doing their job. He wants to inflame tension by making people think that they're the bad guys, not the terrorists trying to kill people.
Piers' argument is that Zack Polanski focused on the wrong thing at the worst possible moment. Instead of simply focusing on the victims, the Jewish community and the police response, Polanski shared criticism of the officers involved. Piers sees that as divisive, especially given the fear around anti-Semitism. Green Party defenders would say it is possible to condemn anti-Semitic violence completely, while still believing police conduct can be scrutinised. They would also argue that Polanski apologised for sharing the post in haste, and that one badly judged tweet should not define the whole party. But the problem for the Greens is judgment. When a party wants to move from activism into serious political power, timing and tone matter. So when you put all three clips together, this was not just Piers Morgan ranting on Question Time. It was a post-local election diagnosis of British politics. Labour's problem is competence. Reform's problem is scrutiny. The Greens' problem is judgment. The local elections showed how unstable British politics has become. Labour under pressure, Reform rising, the Greens gaining ground, and voters less loyal to the old parties than ever. So which of Piers Morgan's attacks was the fairest? Was he right about Starmer? Was he exposing hypocrisy from Farage? Or did he go too far on Zack Polanski? Let us know in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe for more balanced breakdowns of British politics.